to episode 1 of my new series, which is going to be a Python crash course where I teach most of what you need to know for Python and programming and just the basics to get you guys started. This first episode is going to be episode 1, and there's going to be a lot of talking, and we're going to write a few code, so follow along with me when you can. So the first thing I'll talk about is what is programming. So programming is a language that the computer can understand, and it can achieve certain tasks with that language. So for example, in order to make this browser window show up, someone has written a program in a programming language. A program is just the writing in a programming language. It's also called code. And that code is given to the computer, which tells it to show this web page. So we are going to be learning how to make our very own program. And we're going to be learning a language that is called Python. And Python is one of the newer languages, but it's nice and simple. It's close to English, which is good. And it has a lot of resources that can help you, such as writing and a lot of information. Like you can look up Python resources, and then all that information will be given. Before we do jump into coding, I do want to talk about where we're coding, which is called Repl.com in my case. And the best way to find it is you hit a new tab, you go for you search Repl.it, and it's this one. And this one will take me here because I'm already signed in, but this is what it should look like for you. And you can click sign up or log in, and then it should take you to a page that looks a little bit like this. All right. So before we create our writing, I want to talk about this slideshow that I've created, which is, I'm going to go all the way to the back, which is my analogy for programming with pictures. So what we are doing is we are writing code in a programming language. Where we're writing it is called an integrated development environment, or an IDE. So we're choosing Repl.it. And we're choosing Repl.it because it's free, completely free to make an account, and it's nice and simple. And if you don't need a lot of the other resources that IDEs give, like there's certain debugging stuff, in Repl.it it's pretty easy to ignore it. And the way I like to think of Repl.it is a butler. So Repl.it is our butler, and what we write is called code. So we're writing in a programming language, and that writing is called code, and it's a recipe that the butler will follow. So anything that isn't written in the code isn't done. And the recipe also can't be changed while the butler is following it, and the recipe is read from top to bottom, kind of like English writing. And so the recipe might say, okay, I don't know, get 2 cups of flour, get 1 cup of sugar, get this and get that, and then mix them together in a bowl. These kinds of things. But we need to give it that information from top to bottom so that it knows what to do. For example, you can't really say mix butter and cream in a bowl before you've told the butler how much butter and how much cream you need. So that's why it's written from top to bottom. So anything that's written after, or anything on the second line, has the information of the first line, which is a little bit confusing, but it'll make more sense when we get to writing. And what we have at the end is the code's result. So which is our finished product. Eventually, the end goal of this series will make a game, and I'll show you what the game looks like. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to give instructions to the computer, and that computer will give us a result based on what instructions we give it. So if we give the butler, Repl.it, a recipe for a chocolate cake, it's going to give us a chocolate cake. That's pretty easy. This one does have a few more slides, but I will get to those later, and I'll leave this slideshow in the video description for you guys to look at. All right, let's take a look at what we're going to end up with. So this is our final game. I know, 81 lines, it looks like a lot. But we are going to very slowly build up all of the skills needed in order to write this for ourselves. So what we have here is what I call Scrabble. And it's similar to Scrabble, where you take all of the letters here. You take the letters here, and then you make words with it, but you can only use each letter once. So I can see F, U, and N, so I can write fun. And I hit enter, and it says world submitted successfully. I can also write, I don't know. Yeah, these are some hard letters. What I can mention though is you see that the letter Z isn't here and P isn't here. So I can write, if I write zap, the computer knows that this is an invalid word. Make sure to only use the provided letters. So it recognizes that there are some letters in here, in this case 2, of this group of letters that aren't in there. And it can recognize that, and it doesn't just submit it blindly, because otherwise it's not really a fun game. All right, I'll stop that there. So let's get to writing code. As I mentioned, after you've logged in and signed up with our account, or created an account, make sure to follow along here and do what I'm doing right now. So we'll go to the left, hit create REPL. We're going to hit Python because that's what language we're using. Give it a title. You can name it whatever you want. I go my first program, or my first code. That's nicer. And here you can't use any spaces, I don't think, but I'll create REPL. And so here we are. Wow, this is where, if you guys remember that slideshow, this is where we actually talk to the butler. And this is the recipe we write, and this is what it presents us. So, like I said, if we don't need all this complicated stuff, we can just ignore it. I'll actually slide this out. All we need are these two. This is the area where we write our code, or the recipe. So if I can write something here, and it's here. This is where we get whatever the code does. So, and if I say hello, it should say hello. Right. Let's write some code. So, as I've mentioned, the computer, or in this case, Repl.it speaks in a programming language called Python. And Python isn't like English, so I can't just say write hello, and then we can run this. By the way, this is the button to run. That doesn't happen. It says invalid syntax, and invalid syntax is the computer telling us, hey, this doesn't make sense. I don't understand this. What's going on? So let's write this in a way that the computer understands. The computer does understand something like print. And then we can print something. And you notice, actually I'll rewrite it. You notice after here, it kind of explains it a little bit, and it tells you how to use it. Although this is more complicated, I think there's an easier way to, or a way to view more useful information, but I can write print and then open close bracket. And whatever's in these brackets is what it is the input for this. So the computer recognizes print as, hey, whatever's in here, I want you to put it in here. So we input something here, we say print this, and it's going to give us whatever we write. But print only works with these apostrophes, I call them quotation marks, and we usually start our program with hello world. It's usually the first line whenever we're learning programming is we first learn how to print hello world. So I'll run this, and if you guys are following along, we should have hello world. Yay! Again, not a super important line of code, but this is us saying, okay, we can give the computer instructions here in Python. These instructions are called code, and when we hit this button, it's going to take that code and do something with it. In this case, it's going to give us hello world. Yay. So yeah, there you are. My job is done. That's the end of the video. Goodbye. No, I'm kidding. Obviously, this is just one line of code, and it doesn't really do much. Not very useful. So before we make it more interesting, what I'd like to do is I'd like to organize it. And the way we organize this way that most people organize it is just before that I'm going to write, I'm just going to write all of it and then I'll explain what it is. It's called def main open close and then a colon. And then after that I'm going to hit tab. And Repl.it actually has its own formatting where you can click this, that it hides everything that's in an indent. This is our indent. But this is telling us, this is our main function. And you can already see this, we have a main file. This is our main function in the main file. You could name this whatever you want. Most people name it main because it's the main, it's the bulk of what you're writing. And after this, we have our very own, our first function. I'll take a deeper dive into functions later on. But right now, if we run this, nothing happens. Whoa, it's ended. You can see it's all done. But nothing happened. Why? Why isn't it doing this? Well, the one important thing you need to know about functions now is that this is called instantiating, or I just like to say we've made the function, but we haven't ran the function. So the computer knows that, okay, if you ask for main, I will do this. But we haven't actually asked for main. The way we do that, if my keyboard works, is like this. So I run it, and ta-da, we're back to hello world. So you might be running, what's the point of this? Why? Why do I need this? So right now, you don't. But it builds, this is the frame for what we're writing in the future. So when we have 50 lines of code, they're under main. And this is good for working with other programmers or coders. So let's say you give this to someone else. They kind of want to know, what is this print hello world? What's its meaning? Whoops. What is it trying to do? So in this case, they know, oh, it's the main. This is the bulk of their code. So yeah, if you guys have been following along, that is your first few lines of code. Small round of applause for you guys, because it takes eventually a lot of hard work and also a lot of interesting stuff, and you will absolutely encounter errors. But I'm going to be teaching you guys how to problem solve. I'm going to be teaching you guys how to write code, and also a lot of the main functions and the logic. The logic being the bulk of our code, the thinking. that we're going to do. And if you're wondering how I got print and how I got def and how I know these things, well, I know because someone else taught me, like I'm going to be teaching you guys, but you can also always look up Python reference guide, and there's plenty of them. And so as long as it's Python reference and not something else, you should be fine with going through this. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. This is the very first episode. I plan to make 6 where we eventually get to this game. But if you have this, pat yourself in the back. You've taken your first steps towards programming. I know, very it's gotta get a lot better. I promise. I promise it's gonna get better. Like I said, we're gonna start small, and then we're going to get a lot better at this through some skills and some fun stuff and some logic. All right, have yourselves a nice day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.